Can you smell what The Rock is cooking? He's cooking up a DC film, and it's coming in 2022. What are some keys to look out for Black Adam on this video from Bronzeville Comics? Hey comic book community, this is Jim from Bronzeville Comics, and in this video we're going to look at key comic books related to the upcoming Black Adam film. We haven't seen a trailer yet. We've seen a little bit of a teaser, but evidently they're in post-production. And the film is scheduled to be released in July 29th of 2022. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is starring as Black Adam, and this has been a project a long time in coming. It was teased in the Shazam movie, which came out 2.5 years ago. And, you know, it was delayed by the pandemic. So we're close to getting in. What are some books you can pick up? Well, you have the main character, Black Adam. You have some of the supporting casting. And there are going to be 4 members of the Justice Society of America who have announced roles in the film. Let's start with Black Adam. So Black Adam is a foe of Shazam, the original Captain Marvel. He appeared once in the golden age of comics. Now, Captain Marvel was even more popular than Superman in the golden age of comics. His books actually came out twice a month at the time, Captain Marvel Adventures. And he had his spin-offs. There was Captain Marvel Jr., Mary Marvel, and in 1945, Fawcett Publications, not DC. DC eventually acquired the rights in the 1970s to the Fawcett characters, but this was a completely different publishing company that produced the Marvel family of characters, as they were known at the time. And they did other superheroes as well: Bullet Man, Ibis, Spy Smasher, Minuteman, Captain Midnight. They also had other books like Don Winslow of the Navy. There was Hoppy the Marvel Bunny. Fawcett also had a large publication operation other than just comics. But there was Captain Marvel Adventures. He was in the anthology title Whiz Comics. Captain Marvel Jr. was in Master Comics and his own series. And Mary Marvel, his sister, was in WoW Comics as well as her own series. In 1945, they launched the Marvel family. These characters are so popular, Fawcett was just printing money every time they put together a new book. So Marvel Family #1, which came out, cover date December 1945, had reintroduction of the origins of the 3 characters, and then it introduced Black Adam, who was a character who Shazam, the wizard that gave Captain Marvel and Mary and Captain Marvel Jr. his powers. We saw that wizard played by Djimon Hounsou in the Shazam movie. He had originally given his powers in ancient Egypt to Teth Adam, who ended up being corrupted by the powers. Shazam banished him to the furthest star. It took several thousand years for him to get back from the farthest star, but he did get back in 1945 and terrorized the Marvel family. It was the only time he appeared in the Golden Age. And in that story, he was finally foiled by the comedic Uncle Dudley, or Uncle Marvel, who kind of pretended to be one of the characters, and everybody else went along with the joke because it was the 1940s. And the Captain Marvel books in general had a much lighter tone than a lot of the other superhero books of the time. But this Marvel Family #1 is the only Golden Age appearance of Black Adam, and it's a huge book. A 9.4 just came to sale as part of the Promise collection, and that was sold in September for $186,000. It's a hard book to get. A 1.5 in August sold for $3,800. So you need a considerable amount of cash to even consider getting a Marvel Family #1. The next time we would see Black Adam would be in the comic fanzine Alter Ego, which was published by Roy Thomas and Jerry Bales in the 1960s. Issue #7 featured Black Adam on the cover, but there wasn't a story in there. It wasn't an original story. It was just talking about the Marvel family in general, as well as Black Adam. Those books are fairly pricey, though. They go for around $800 raw recently. The first time that we saw Black Adam in the modern age was after DC acquired the rights to the Fawcett characters. They printed the title Shazam in 1973. And by issue number 8, they had a 100-page super spectacular. They reprinted the story for Marvel Family number 1. That book in a 9.8 sold for $325, and a 9.4 sold for up to $210. You can probably get a raw copy for $25. It's higher to get in high grade because it is a square-bound 100-page book. When my older daughter was 9 years old, the couple of nights leading up to when I was going to take her to see the Shazam movie, we read this particular book, Shazam number 8, and it had a retelling of Captain Marvel's origin from Dr. Savannah's point of view. It had the Black Adam story. It had the origin, I think, of both Mary and Captain Marvel Jr. So it was a really great jumping off point, and when we came to the movie, my daughter knew all the characters and the interplay among them from the original comics in the 1940s. The book continued, and it was kind of set apart from the rest of DC continuity. They were on a different Earth, Earth S. And it maintained the lighter tone that it had in the 1940s. In Shazam number 28, and this is a book I would love to get. I haven't been able to get a copy of this. Black Adam made his second appearance in story, and his first appearance in the modern age. A 9.8 recently sold for $7,000, and 6.0, 7.0 range, mid-range kind of books go for about $500, raws for about $200. So that's the key Bronze Age book for Black Adam. He did have other appearances that are kind of pricey. The limited collector's edition C58 Superman and Shazam also included Black Adam as one of the villains in the story, and that's his second appearance in the modern age. It's a treasury edition, which means it's a big book, and it isn't really encapsulated. So you can get raws probably, depending on condition, between $25 and $60. The next time he appeared in a comic book with Superman, and there's the thought that at some point, if DC continues, gets their act together, I can't even say continue because they haven't started, with their connected universe. We did kind of see Superman at the end of Shazam, at least from the neck down. There is thought, and Dwayne Johnson has indicated he would like to have Black Adam face Superman, battle Superman. That happened in DC Comics Presents 49. A 9.8 sold at the crazy height of the market in April for $1,050, and it sold for $300 in August. And raw books go for about $50 a pop for DC Comics Presents number 59. The next kind of key book, which is a very affordable book, is Black Adam miniseries number 1, which came out in 2007. That particular book, number 1, goes raw for about $10, but there is a variant cover, and it's drawn by Alex Ross. That book is highly sought after. 9.8s, 2 of them sold in September for $585 and $575, and you'd be lucky to find a raw book of this for under $100. That's a very sought after book. So those are kind of keys associated with the Black Adam character. There are a lot of people who have a lot of hopes on this. I'm, as with DC movies, cautiously optimistic. The one kind of thing that, has me at pause is Dwayne Johnson isn't exactly Jack Nicholson. Will he have the acting chops to really pull off this anti-hero? Because Black Adam's story is kind of interesting in the modern comics. He's more than just a villain. He's an anti-hero. He becomes the ruler of a Mideastern country where he had roots. And there was reference to this in Wonder Woman 1984. And so in order to protect his people, he lashes out. He has at times been, why do I keep knocking that over? Member of both the Justice Society of America and more recently the Justice League. So he can kind of go either way. I think he's a little bit been portrayed a little bit like Submariner in that way. A guy who's a ruler of his own kingdom and will do what he needs to protect his people, but will work with others in pursuit of protecting the Earth, essentially. There have been confirmed 4 Justice Society members. And I'm hoping that they do justice to the Justice Society. Every time they been on TV, they just kill them off. Like in Smallville, they killed off Star Spangled Kid right away. You know, they did have a pretty nice little story arc there. They brought them in at the end of season 1 in Legends, and then boom, 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 like just killed them all off. And in Stargirl, it was like the first minute and they were all dead. So I like these classic characters, who I am huge fans of, to stay around a little bit longer. There are 2 Golden Age characters and 2 more recent characters that are going to be featured as Justice Society members. The first of those is Dr. Fate. Dr. Fate premiered in More Fun Comics number 55. The most recent sale of that was a 3.0 in 2020 for $8,100. And in September, for $6,800. A 9.4 sold in 2017 for $51,000. Now, his first cover appearance was the following issue, in issue number 56, and there are really no sales data for this book. This book is on cover price, no sales. So that's a hard book to come across. Again, your average collector is not going to be able to acquire these books. What books can we get for Dr. Fate? Well, he was a big part of the Justice Society in the Silver Age. In the first Justice League Justice Society team-up, Crisis on Earth 1, in Justice League of America number 21, Dr. Fate is featured prominently on the cover. And he was one of the most prominent members of the Justice Society throughout the 60s and 70s, including their own run in All-Star Comics, as well as the crossovers. This particular book sold in a 6.0 in July for $318. Raw books about the $200 to $300 range. That's a sought-after book. He did have a tryout, which they did with some of the Justice Society members in the 60s, in Showcase numbers 55 and 56 with Our Man. Number 55 recently sold in a 7.0 for $400, and a Raw goes for about $200 to $250. So if you want a mid-grade copy, you're going to need a couple of $100 for either of these books. And, you know, so they are somewhat affordable. The other Golden Age character that we're going to see is Hawkman. Oh, by the way, Dr. Fate is going to be portrayed by Pierce Brosnan, so he's not going to be a young man. Hawkman, however, is going to be a little bit younger. Now, Hawkman premiered in Flash Comics number 1 in 1940, which was an anthology series that highlighted the Flash as the lead feature most of the time, although Hawkman did have a share of covers throughout the Golden Age. That book in a 9.2 sold way back in 2014 for $182,000. So this book in high grade is worth a couple $100,000. Again, it's impossible to find. Now, the story of the Golden Age Hawkman is that he is the reincarnation of an Egyptian prince, which does have ties to Black Adam having originated in Egypt. So it'd be interesting to see how they play that off. Now, of course, the Egyptian prince was, you know, white with blonde hair in 1940, and he did have a love interest. And the story, Hawkman's backstory is completely confusing. But let's go back to the simplest form. Through the Crisis on Infinite Earths, there were 2 Hawkmen. One on Earth 2, Justice Society of America, was an Earthman who was the reincarnation of Egyptian prince. He and his lover would be destined to be killed over and over again and reincarnated and fall in love and die. In All-Star Comics number 5, Shara Saunders becomes Hawkgirl, and that's a book that in May sold in a 5.5 for $2,860. It's a Justice Society of America All-Star book. It's a sought-after book, a book that doesn't come up for sale too often. Fast forward to the Silver Age, when they rebooted these characters. You know, the Flash, Green Lantern, Atom were all Golden Age characters who were given new scientific backgrounds by DC. And Hawkman, who was then an alien from the planet Thanagar with his wife Shiera, premiered in Brave and the Bold number 34 with art by Joe Kubert. That book most recently sold in a 6.0 last month for $850. So it's a reasonably affordable book, especially for a Silver Age key. So that is a book that one can get. Just looking at my notes. The other kind of key here that is Black Adam / Hawkman is in The Black Adam miniseries, issue number 3, we have this Black Adam Hawkman cover where they're fighting, and there have been stories from the set that there's going to be a big set piece of a much anticipated showdown, a fight between Hawkman and Black Adam. That book you can get for under $10 raw. Probably even potentially find it in dollar bins. I think some people may be, coming to the realization they maybe want to take a closer look at Black Adam books. The other 2 Justice Society characters that have been confirmed are both debuts from the modern age. The first one is Atom Smasher. Now, Atom Smasher made his debut as Nuklon in All-Star Squadron number 25 as a member of Infinity Incorporated. And you can see he had that the mohawk there. This was the 1980s. This is a pretty pricey book because it's also the premiere of Jade, who we saw in Stargirl, her brother Obsidian, Silver Scarab, and Fury, and Northwind. The Infinity Incorporated, they had their own book for quite a while. This is art done by Jerry Ordway. This is a book I have a number of copies of. And that sold in July of last year in a 9.8 for, how much? For $200. This is a newsstand, and I believe it's potentially a 9.8 canon, probably more closer to 9.6. But a 9.6 in October sold for $190. So I think that 9.8 is a little soft. And if Atom Smasher becomes popular, Nuklon became Atom Smasher. He is the godson of the Golden Age Atom, and he's big. He became Atom Smasher in JSA Secret Files and Origins number 1, which a 9.8 of that book sold in November for $225. That's a that's a 90s book, I believe. I think it's from 99, 2000, whereas All-Star Squadron is from the 80s. I have to believe next time this comes up as a 9.8, it's going to be over $200, maybe even over $300. So that is going out to CGC. The other character that they're introducing is a young character who also has a Golden Age heritage, and that is Cyclone, who is Maxine Hunkel, the granddaughter of the original Red Tornado. The original Red Tornado was a comedic character who made an appearance in All-Star Comics number 3, the first meeting of the Justice Society of America, and was later in the Silver Age considered a member of the group. That was the only time we saw her anywhere connected to the Justice Society. The Red Tornado, who became the much more popular character you might be familiar with from Young Justice, was an android who thought he was the Golden Age Red Tornado initially, and then eventually sacrificed himself to save Earth 2. They thought he was dead. He was actually in Earth 1 and became a long-standing member of the Justice League. He was very similar to Vision, a red-skinned android, premiered before Vision. And so Maxine Hunkel is the granddaughter of this original Red Tornado. She has these tornado-like powers, hence the codename Cyclone. Now, the first time we saw that character was in the Alex Ross, Mark Waid miniseries Kingdom Come, issue number 2. So this was non-continuity. That book in a 9.8 sold for $135 in 2019. That Kingdom Come limited series, I went through it in one of my DC 1990s videos. It's pretty sought after. She did have her first in-continuity appearance in Justice Society of America number 1. 9.8s have sold for $100, but all going back to 2020. There haven't been any 9.8 sales this year. You could probably get a raw copy for about $10. There is a 1 in 10 variant, but that hasn't had a significant price spike. The other book, again, no 9.8 sales, but if this character does become popular, this is a book that you can get pretty cheap, probably for about $3 raw, and that's Justice Society of America number 3. Alex Ross cover. He did a series of these covers of the members of that Justice Society team at the time, and Alex Ross covers tend to be sought after, and so if this character pops, this could be a key issue. Now, the other character that is included is the character Isis, who is named after the Egyptian goddess. Isis's origins were in a Saturday morning TV show. In the 1970s, Filmation Studios produced a Shazam TV show in which Billy Batson, the teenage alter ego of Captain Marvel, travel the highways and byways in a Winnebago with this guy called Mentor. And then when he needed help, he would say Shazam and become Captain Marvel, and Captain Marvel would like find a stolen bicycle or something. The stories were pretty simplistic. There was always a moral. And even as a kid, I think I was like 8 years old when the show came out, I was like, why is Captain Marvel wasting his time with this stuff? Where are like villains he can fight? It wasn't even like tongue-in-cheek as the comics were. But the show was popular enough that Filmation Studios wanted to do a spin-off. It was on CBS at the time. And they actually wanted to do a Mary Marvel series, but the rights that DC was asking were more than Filmation was willing to pay to use Mary Marvel. So they developed their own character, Isis, based in Egyptian mythology. And the actress Joanna Cassidy, is that her name? No, I'm sorry. Joanna Cameron, who passed away just about 2 months ago, I believe, was tapped for the title role. There were some crossover episodes where she was on Shazam or Captain Marvel was on her show. And DC produced a comic book. Before they produced Isis in her own comic book, she appeared in Shazam number 25. This is the first appearance of Isis in comics. And 9.8 just sold for $1,500. A 9.6 sold for $400 in June, and 9.4 in October sold for $477. Isis will be in the movie. That character is coming to the Black Adam movie, so it is a character to keep an eye on. I should see what an 8.5 sold. This is one of the books I picked up in the spring at the height of the market. I'm going to do a year-end summary video next week and kind of look at the hits and misses. I did pick up some books early on in the year that were already graded, but I think I picked up some good ones. I picked them up well before I didn't pick them up at their height. Let's just say that. I kind of did a little of my own speculation, including Isis. Now, issue number 1 of her own series sold in September in a 9.8 for $204. Raw copies of that book can probably be gotten for $20. Now, a different incarnation of the character. Adriana Tomaz premiered in DC's 52 miniseries in issue number 3. No 9.8 sales, a raw book, $3. She became Isis in issue number 12. Now that has sold in a 9.8, and the sales in April were where it took off. Height of the market again, went from $95 up to $300 for a 9.8. You can get a raw book for under $10, so I wouldn't buy that slabbed. I'd, if I'm going to look for that book, I'd grab some raws and see what is a 9.8 candidate. She eventually becomes the wife of Black Adam. So I think she's going to be a very important character in this movie. And then in 52 number 23 was the premiere appearance of her brother Osiris. And this is a book under $10 raw. There have been characters that have been cast for the Black Adam movie. We don't know what roles they're going to play yet, but it's possible that Osiris could be one of those characters. So I kind of look at DC keys much in the way people do Marvel. If DC ever gets their act together, these books could take off. Now, this is going to be a feature film. It's not going to be an HBO Max film or an HBO Max series. Dwayne Johnson is a huge star. So the box office potential for this movie is pretty high. And most of the characters are not big characters yet that people really know about. Of them, Hawkman is probably the most well-known historically. People do know Black Adam. More so, I think, for the fact that Dwayne Johnson has said forever that he wanted to play the character. Hawkman, has been a member of the Justice League back in the 60s and 70s. He was a long-standing member of the Justice Society. He's been around forever. Atom Smasher, Cyclone. Now, the story with Cyclone, I believe, is that they wanted to use Stargirl, Courtney Whitmore, but DC had already greenlit the TV series that was on DC Universe, and this past season was on the CW, so they didn't want to confuse things. There is an interesting angle there, that Courtney Whitmore did have a romantic relationship with Billy Batson at one point, and it confused other members of the Justice Society, those that didn't know that Captain Marvel was actually a kid, and it's like, why is he with this teenage girl? It was an awkward situation, but I'm watching the Stargirl TV series. I think that Brett Bassinger and Asher Angel would, like, I think there would be chemistry there. That would be a really cool teaming if DC could say, okay, we're just going to take these characters into the movie universe, much like Marvel's doing with their Netflix shows. But we'll see what comes of this. So a lot of these characters under the radar. Hawkman has had numerous series of his own, as has Dr. Fate, and you can seek out those issues. But these are some of the key issues to look out for as we build to the Black Adam film. I'm going to take a look. I'm more of a DC expert than a Marvel expert. Everybody goes all in on Marvel stuff. There's all sorts of speculation every time there's mention of a TV series. But DC does have a lot of stuff in the pipe, announced, rumored, and I'm going to start to take a look at some of those properties. In the meantime, we're rolling down to the end of the year. I will finish the DC 1990s on Thursday. You can take a look at my 1998 video, which wasn't a great year for DC, at least in terms of how the books are priced now. You can look at that up here, and you can look at my experience at an estate sale this past weekend right here. A reminder that I'll be setting up at King Con on March 19th, and I'd love to see you guys there. Until next time, guys, enjoy your comics.